All right, welcome into the Aggie Up podcast. I'm Isaac Draxler. I'll be your host tonight. I've got Joe Arrigo on the line with me. Joe, what's going on? Las Vegas, yeah, man, doing good, doing good. You work for the ESPN affiliate in Las Vegas, right? And they're the official home of UNLV. So it's good to have you on. I know you've got a lot of experience with UNLV, with all football, basketball, with recruiting in the area. So it's always good to chat with you, get your opinions on you know, especially with the battle, the game coming up on Saturday. So, what do you think about UNLV so far? It's kind of they're kind of in the rebuilding mode, I guess. But what have you thought so far about the Rebs? Right. Hey, Joe. Joe, let me.
Hello? 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 Hello?
Yeah, Joe. Sorry, I had a little technical difficulty. Sorry, man. Yeah, can you hear me? Let's see here. All right, let me do this. Let me do this. Test, test, test. All right, Joe. Sorry, little bit of technical difficulties. Let me test. Try that again.
1 2 1 2. You there? Hello?
All right, there we go. All right, we fixed it. Sorry, man. So got everything fixed. So yeah, keep going. So basically, you were saying kind of Tony's been able to win some more games. He got into a situation, took it over with it in a pretty tough situation, right? So, it might take some time to really be competitive in the Mountain West. But we've seen like Fresno State, they've taken a big jump up. It seems like this year with the new coaching staff. So maybe that's something that UNLV can kind of get started.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it comes down to recruiting and getting guys that fit your system, and that's something that Tony had to come in and change right away. And the first thing he noticed was the offensive line. They averaged about 255 pounds when he first got there under Bobby Hope as the head coach, and now they're above 300 on the average. They're really too deep across the board, and and people forget that UNLV, they haven't had their center all year. Sid Acosta, who was their top offensive line target in terms of JUCO this year. He's an early enrollee. He got there and he had a partially torn ACL, and he had to have surgery on it, so he could be back any week now, to be honest with you. And to get Sid back would be huge, since they lost their backup center 2 weeks ago in the San Diego State game. So to get him back with the other four offensive linemen that all returned from last year, that could be something that would definitely be helpful. Whether or not their left tackle comes back, I don't know how significant his injury was that he sustained last week, or 2 weeks ago. But at the end of the day, UNLV is a team that is just now getting Tony's guys in there. And this is the first year that the majority of the guys that are playing are Tony's guys in terms of guys that he recruited versus guys that were holdovers from the previous team.
Yeah, and that sometimes takes some time. So it seems like, at least on offense, they've taken a pretty big step up this year from last year. But I was just kind of looking over their stats as I was preparing for this podcast, and it's eerily similar. I mean, when you're giving up more points and you're giving up a lot of yards, you can score 30 points a game and you're still probably going to lose games. So has it just been kind of the defense not coming through in the necessary stops?
It's almost like a tale of two halves with this team. They'll come out one half in the first half and they'll be on fire, and then the second half they'll come out and they'll play really flat and give up a ton of points. With that being said, it's different than last year, because when last year UNLV gave up big plays in the passing game. Their pass defense was porous at best, and that's me even being really nice about it. I mean, quite frankly, it sucks. Where this year, their pass defense really isn't that bad, especially on the deep balls. And I credit Coach David Lockwood coming in with his techniques and his philosophy defending the deep ball. Last year, they were okay and pretty good at stopping the run. This year, they can't stop the run. So, and it's a veteran defensive line led by a guy that can play on Sundays, a Mike Hughes Jr., who's having a pretty good year. So, the run defense has to do a better job. And the one thing that looking at the defense, looking at the team in general as a whole, they, up until the last maybe 2 or 3 weeks, weren't blitzing a lot under Ken Bear. They were a team that was relying on the front four or the front three, maybe one guy coming off the edge, giving them some pressure. And now they're doing a better job of their blitzing a little bit more, and that really has helped in terms of stopping the pass game. But this team the defense has really let them down in the recent weeks. And at the same time, when you have a lead, you have to rely on one of the best running backs in the country, especially in our conference. And that's Lexington Thomas. And, outside of Penny, I think Lex is the next best running back in the conference. That's starting. I mean, Charles Williams, who's injured for UNLV, would be right up there as well. But they got, last week in particular, in the third quarter, they got away from running the ball with Lex. And I think that, that's something that they really needed to do. So if they can get a lead and in the second half and really do a good job of controlling the clock in the second half, I think that'll go a long way to keeping the defense fresh and maybe not giving up so many points.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at his stats, I mean, and Matt Wells mentioned it multiple times this week in interviews and different things. The junior Lexington Thomas has an average of 7.23 on rushes, 10 touchdowns. So, yeah, I mean, it looks like he's doing a great job running the ball. Armani Rogers is a pretty good runner as a quarterback. And he's young. I mean, he's a freshman at quarterback. Is he a guy that you think has a lot of potential there as far as throwing the ball as well, or is he going to be more of a runner?
Armani is a poor man's Cam Newton, and I said that last year when he redshirted. He's legitimately 6'5", and he's legitimately 240 pounds, and he would go between 245 early in spring to 235, but he's settled in at 240 right now. And Armani is the guy that can play on Sundays. But by the time he's done here, barring any significant injury and tail off in his play, he's the guy that's going to leave UNLV with every record, probably passing, touchdowns, and rushing for a quarterback. He's a guy that can definitely play on Sundays if he fulfills his potential. But Armani struggles with accuracy right now. Sometimes, with young quarterbacks, you have that, especially guys that are like Armani, where they can get out the pocket and run. Now, Armani isn't your typical quarterback that gets out the pocket and runs and just tries to just get out the pocket and run. He actually is looking downfield to pass the ball more times than not. There are design plays where he does get out and run. And good luck bringing him down with one guy. And he's hurdled more than a few players this year in various games. But Armani's the guy where he's the face of the program, and he's going to be the face of the program. This is a guy that, you have to scheme for, and he makes Lexington Thomas and Xavier Campbell, and he makes Devontae Boyd. He makes them better with his play. His passing has been inconsistent and off target. Really, the second half of the San Diego State game, most of the game against Air Force this past week. So I'm anxious to see if he can get back on track, and if they look to get him going early like they had in the last couple of weeks. He came out throwing against San Diego State. They came out throwing against Ohio State as well as against Air Force. So if they can come out and get Armani in rhythm early, he could really have a big game for them in the air, and that makes his running ability that much more dangerous.
Yeah, and I would say one of the keys to the game, as always, I think every week we talk about this, but the Aggies best bet is probably get some turnovers, get some interceptions, maybe, make some things happen that way, because as you mentioned, the Aggies haven't been. I mean, they've been good at times, and they've been bad at times stopping the run. To be honest, stopping the quarterback. Even Josh Allen had some good runs last week that killed the Aggies on third down, and he's another big boy. Speaking of 6'5", 240, and so yeah, that's going to be something. That's probably their best bet to stop those guys that have been a pretty good offense. And Aggie fans, I mean, I think they're pretty apprehensive about this game because UNLV is a pretty good offensive team. I think everybody's heard of Devontae Boyd. He's been around for 9 years. So it seems like he's been around forever. But these guys, can definitely put up some points. They can rack up some yards. How big is this game for UNLV? Do you think they're going to come in kind of with their heads down after that Air Force game, or do you think it's going to be kind of a big game where they're going to come out, firing on all cylinders?
It seems like every week I say this. And last week was the first week that I did not say it, I think, in the last year and a half. But this may be the biggest game for Tony outside of the San Diego State game that happened the week prior to the game. And I say that because, for him, and early on in spring camp, in the first day of summer camp, he told the guys on the team that, just playing hard and almost winning and losing the game isn't good enough anymore. That the expectation now is to go to a bowl and to be a team that is consistently going to bowls and competing for conference championships, to see how many wins and where that takes the program in the future. And this week's game is going to go a long way in deciding that for this season. And I think it's going to go a long way in deciding the future for some of the coaches on the staff, not Tony in particular. I think he's locked in here for at least another 2 years, signed a 3 year extension before this season, so he's got 5 years left on his deal. And the thing is your defensive coordinator, Kent Bear, is a guy that is well respected. He's a Power 5 coach. He's Pac-12 or the Pac-10 at the time, and other conferences, and the defense just isn't clicking for the last year and a half. I mean, for whatever reason, it's just not going. So I think Kansas State's a little warm in that regard, especially after giving up 30 points or 30 points, 34, 30 plus points in the second half against Air Force, against losing to Howard, and getting embarrassed by Howard. Really, you're in a game where you're supposed to beat them by 40 plus points. And so I think Kansas State is a little warm. And for the first time in his career, Barney Cotton, another guy who's orchestrated some great offense at Nebraska and throughout the history of college football, Barney's going to be up in the coaches' booth this week against Utah State against you guys. So there's a couple, that's a change there where I think they're trying to shake some things up, but it's a big game for UNLV because again they think they're a bowl caliber team. They feel they have the talent to play for some type of bowl this upcoming this bowl season, and you got to beat Utah State for UNLV to do that.
Yeah, and it's interesting. It's kind of weird that they're on the West in the West Division, and it's only a battle. It's only a game that we see every few years or whatever. But it's a fun. I mean, this is the reason why Aggie fans are so thankful that they're in the Mountain West, is playing week in, week out against the UNLVs and Wyomings and teams like this and Boise State, instead of traveling to Texas or Louisiana, back in the WAC days and different times. So it's kind of a fun little rivalry or conference game. Every conference game is a rivalry, but I usually ask my guests kind of every week what you pay attention. You've got guys that you used to coach, and so you watch the Aggies. What's your outsider's opinion on the Aggies and the job Matt Wells is doing?
Well, let me preface what I'm saying is I'm going to say this because I'm biased. I love him like my son. I coached him and I trained him last year. You guys got to get Savon Scarver the ball every opportunity you can. You don't teach 4.37 speed. You don't have the intangibles that he has. Most schools didn't. I was actually bummed out when he chose Utah State over UNLV because I thought that he'd be electrifying in UNLV offense. And I can't wait next year to see Jamal Evans, another guy I coached last year down here in Las Vegas, see Jamal get out there and do his thing. So I'm biased by saying that. But that being said, I think Utah State is kind of, in some ways they parallel UNLV in terms of the struggles that they have right now, where Sanchez has come in and has become a stable and a stabilizing force for UNLV, and really been a leader in the community where he's beloved and he has a finger of the pulse of Las Vegas, and he's looked upon as a leader in our community. With Wells, I think that it's kind of teetered in the opposite way, where there's some people that would much rather see him leave or get be removed as a coach so they can move on and bring somebody else in and try to revitalize that program and give them a shot of energy. So to me, that's the part that is I find interesting to see whether or not that actually happens. At the same time, I think you guys have some weapons that can really cause some problems for UNLV. But I think you got to settle in at quarterback. To be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of teams that have two quarterbacks and they rotate them in and out. I think you settle in with one guy and you ride or die with him. And if he's not getting the job done, then you put the next guy in. And I think once that happens, you guys get that position stabilized. You guys have an opportunity to be a team that can make some noise.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're spot on there. And that was one of our Twitter questions when we threw this out when I put on Twitter that you were going to join me. One of the questions was, do they choose one and stick with the guy, or do they go back and forth? What's the plan? And I think they need to stick with Jordan Love. I think Jordan Love had some mistakes and he had some growing pains last week, and even you know in his little bit of playing time leading up to that, he had few mistakes and he kind of telegraphed some passes and made some mistakes, but um, I think that's your best chance is to go with Jordan Love and to see what you can do. And I think looking back, I mean, hindsight's always 2020, but I think if they would have made a decision, I think if they would have given Jordan Love some more chances, maybe he would have progressed and made those mistakes earlier in the season, or learned from those sooner, so that he can move forward. But at this point, you're kind of stuck with you know with going with Jordan Love, in my opinion, and seeing what you've got, because he's the better passer. Um, I think if Kent Myers was bigger, we just talked about a guy that's 6'5", 240. If maybe if Kent Myers was 6'5" and 240, maybe you could take the beatings that he's had to take throughout his career trying to run the ball, and continue that. But it seems like every game he gets hit big, he gets a big hit, goes out of the game, or gets slow to get up. After that happens, after he gets a few hits, he's a lot more tentative to run. When he does run, he kind of just falls down. He's not as aggressive. He's not even throwing the ball as well. Um, so I think it'd be interesting if they do decide to go with Myers. I don't know yet what they're going to do, but if they do decide to go with Myers and he gets hit, then really you just got to pull him out and go with Love anyway. So that's why I say if you might as well start with Love, because usually you're not going to get a full game out of Myers anyway. So
Well, that's a lot like
maybe,
UNLV last year. You look
yeah,
at it. I mean, they lose Johnny Stanton, week 2 or 3, and then you have Dalton Snead come in, and Dalton is they list him at 5'11", but he's more like 5'10", 5'9", 5'10", and he's a gamer, man. But it got to a point where Dalton was great running the ball, and he had moments where he was really good passing it, but he was way too inconsistent, and it just got to a point where you knew you could kind of stack the box and force him to beat you with the pass, and you had Poundek come in, and Poundek, God bless him, he's a guy that I don't know if there's anybody on that team outside of maybe Devontae Boyd or Charles Williams or Lex Thomas that works as hard as Poundek does. I mean, that guy, they call up Kurt, let's go throw on a Sunday at 8:27 in the evening. He's like, let's go, and he takes goes and throws, but he's just not a quarterback. He's a guy that I think if they could put him at running back or they could have put him at receiver, he could have been a guy that you could use like a Julian Edelman type, because he's really good with the ball in his hand. But he can't complete a pass more than 15, 20 yards downfield, which eliminates half of your offense. And again, defenses are able to stack the box, play really zero coverage, man up on him across the board, and say, beat us deep. We're going to bring our safeties in on it, coming up and blitz you. So it took. That's why they waited to. That's why UNLV waited. They bit the bullet last year and redshirted Armani. And that's why this year, he's hit on some big passes, 90+ yards a couple times. So it's he's got tremendous arm strength. So for them, that added element has really helped the offense, and that's something that if Love can do that for Utah State, and he's a guy that can add that added dimension. That's just one more thing, not just Kent Baer, but other defensive coordinators have to scheme for, and that takes away one thing, or at least it takes more time and takes away some time for maybe trying to stop what you do best or what you do second best, which is what coordinators try to do every game.
right. Yeah, and it looks like, Armani's had pretty good games. They against Ohio State, you kind of throw that game out, just like sometimes if a quarterback has a huge game against an FCS team or something, you kind of throw those out. But maybe last week against Air Force with 0 touchdowns and 1 interception was kind of a disappointing game for him. But you put up 30 points and and run the ball a little bit and everything. Maybe that isn't as bad as it looks. I don't know.
Well, the interception was a bad interception. He thought Boyd was going to run a hitch. Boyd was running a go route with the mandatory outside release, and the defender just stepped right in front and took the ball up the air. But the play that hurt Armani the most in that game was in the fourth quarter. I believe it's under 3 or 4 minutes to go. He had a run of about 35 yards where he was inside the red zone, and the defender from the back hit him or kind of punched the ball out from behind him, and it was a fumble, and ends up Air Force recovering the fumble in the end zone. And when UNLV had an opportunity, not just Armani Davis would have gone down, but I believe Darren Woods Jr. could have fell on the ball, and they would have the ball first and goal at the 2 or 3 yard line. But they tried to scoop and run it in, and he ends up, the ball gets kicked around, and Air Force recovers in the end zone. That would have put them up at least by a touchdown at that point, maybe 10 points, and then that would have, the drive that Air Force had to take the lead would have, it would have been all for naught. So that play alone really hurt Armani. That was the worst play I've seen him play all year, honestly. But he's a guy that bounces back well. He's very even keeled. And I'll tell you what, he's exactly what you want if you have a quarterback, a young quarterback, and you want to build around him, your program or your franchise. His personality is exactly what you look for. He's competitive. He's a great leader. He's becoming more vocal as a leader as he's growing more comfortable in his role with the upperclassmen that are there. And he's even keeled. He's uber competitive. I mean, this guy he's the type of kid that, if he dates your daughter, you are like, I hope she ends up marrying this guy. He's a good guy.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, and that's what UNLV needs to do. Obviously, they need to gain that and get some good recruiting classes together and everything to really be consistently good in the Mountain West and in the West Division. So something I've been meaning to talk to you about is kind of switching gears to Las Vegas recruiting. What obviously the Aggies signed a couple guys last year in the last recruiting class. One is, we already mentioned, is contributing. One is redshirting because really played quarterback in high school and will be an outside linebacker and really a beast for Utah State on defense. So Jamal Evans is showing a lot of potential already. I think he's kind of stuck behind some good players there. What's the Las Vegas recruiting scene like? Or I mean, do you think the Aggies kind of hit that area enough? Should they be recruiting more in Las Vegas? What's your opinion?
I'm glad you asked that, and I just had a conversation with a very close friend of mine, like a little brother to me today, about Las Vegas, and Las Vegas is the new jungle. Everybody knows about California, Texas, and Florida being the 3 hotbeds for recruits. But Las Vegas, there is so many good players here, and not just at Bishop Gorman. Yeah, that's the marquee school in the state. But when you have guys like like Las Vegas Centennial, you have an Isaiah Connor, a receiver that transferred in from a school in Texas. He's Malik Barkley, the #1 recruit for Arkansas, his younger brother. Isaiah's at Centennial out here, same school as Scarver and Evans are from, and he's having a hell of a year. Same thing with Jonah Latua. He's a tight end at Centennial. He's 6'5", 240. And ironically, both are going to be at UNLV this weekend for unofficial visit. You have guys like Rodney Pitts from Arborview High School in Las Vegas. He's about a 5'9", 5'8", 5'9" athlete that can play receiver, corner, running back, and he's electric with the ball in his hand. So, you have a lot of schools that have a lot of talent here. It's just, one of the things that, I think myself and other people covering Las Vegas sports and really the recruiting scene need to do is really take a good hard look at the players that are here in Las Vegas was a 3-year varsity guy there. Last week alone, he had 13 tackles, a forced fumble, and 2 fumble recoveries. And he was a 2-star or a 3-star linebacker with us at Scout.com. Like, I think we undervalued Hester. And he's a guy, same thing with Greg Francis that UNLV now. He's a guy who's a 3-star safety that Greg's a guy that's going to make plays. He's a big play safety. So there's a ton of talent here outside of Bishop Gorman that I think it's an untapped market. And I think Utah State has done a really good job of coming in here. I know USC, I know they're a big school, but they've done a really good job of zeroing in on talent here in Las Vegas. Same thing with Southern Utah and Eastern Washington. They've done a really good job of coming in here and kind of getting these guys out of our town, and that's something that UNLV is trying to do. But conversely, here's the problem. It goes with recruiting in general. And, you know this, doing what we do with our company. A lot of the kids like being recruited and like the staff there and the fame that comes with recruiting. The gifts and the markups of where they're going to go. They like that, but when it comes to actually being recruited, it takes them forever to pull the trigger. And sometimes when they do pull the trigger on a school, they'll renege and then they'll pull the trigger somewhere else because they get told one thing from a high school coach or from an advisor or from somebody else. And that's something that UNLV has been hesitant with some recruits here, locally, because they seem to be in love with the process of being recruited and actually being recruited. And I think that those kids and the people around them are doing them a disservice because anytime you get a free education, whether it's at UNLV or Utah State, Southern Utah, Dixie State, or it could be USC or Miami or Ohio State, wherever, anytime you get a free education, that's something that is a blessing and they really need to take to heart because for every kid that doesn't, that gets that offer, you have about 150 to 200 kids that would be dying to be in that kid's shoes, even have one offer, even if it's a D3 school or an HBCU.
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely interesting, and Utah State has, I think, pulled some really good players out of Las Vegas, and there's a lot of good players, everywhere. I mean, Utah State, got a commit today. Speaking of which, I'll go ahead and mention, but out of the San Diego area, and so his name's Tim Patrick. But I think some of those schools, especially Bishop Gorman, where Bishop Gorman was going up to Utah State's camp during the summer, and really you never saw any Bishop Gorman guys sign at Utah State, which was kind of weird. You saw a couple Centennial guys, a couple guys from the Vegas area, but yeah, it's kind of hard to figure out. I'm not sure why that is. I was talking to somebody, I think it was this week, maybe it was at the game on Saturday, about recruiting, and I told him, we were talking about Las Vegas, and I was like, well, Las Vegas and St. George and some of these areas, they might not technically be Utah, they're not in-state recruits necessarily, but man, they're close enough that they can come on unofficial visits. They're close enough that their family can come watch them play. They've got some history there and some guys that they can point to from the Vegas area that have been successful at Utah State. And whether they're from Idaho or Nevada or Wyoming or Colorado or Arizona, it seems like these surrounding states should be more of a focus to me. But maybe I'm just maybe I think there's more guys than there are, because it seems like UNLV has a guy. Is it Polu? Isn't he from Las Vegas? He's starting.
Yeah.
He seems like he's been starting for a couple years now, and he's only a sophomore, but he played last year and this year, so he's kind of one of those guys that it was like, well, Utah State should be trying to get this guy.
Well, yeah, and there's also you mentioned Polo. You have Baker, who's a safety that started here. He's the guy that was a walk-on from Las Vegas, from Bishop Gorman. He started. You got Farrell Hester, who's starting. There, Devontae Boyd, albeit guys from Louisiana, and was displaced during Katrina, but he went to high school here in Utah State High School here in Henderson, so he's a Las Vegas guy. So when you look at it, the one thing that I think, and I'm pretty sure you'll agree with this too, when for me, if I'm recruiting and if I'm recruiting for UNLV or Utah State, or whatever college, I'm going to do what Howard Snellenberger did in Miami back in the 80s. I'm going to draw a line and say, this is going to be the U. This is going to be where we're going to recruit. This is where we're going to go here, and we're going to dominate recruiting in-state or at this part of our neighboring state. This is where we're going to go. And that's something that Sanchez is trying to do here, but he's done a really good job in Texas in particular about landing guys from Texas, and he's gotten into Georgia, New Jersey a little bit now. He's got a couple guys from Jersey, and in Northern California, he's kind of marked those territories like this is where we're going to go get our guys from, and because they fit what we wanted. And really, the Chandler High School, UNLV's had tremendous success getting guys from Chandler High School in Arizona to come here. So they have, I think, 2 or 3 guys off this Chandler through commits right now. They're verbal commits to UNLV off that Chandler High School team, which is one of the better teams in Arizona, committing to come to UNLV next year. So you have, if you can mark off a certain territory, so to speak, if you're any college, say this is where we're going to dominate, that's really going to help you with your recruiting. And I think that's something that I can say that Sanchez has done a pretty good job of so far, and I think that's something that more schools should take notice of and try to do themselves.
Yeah, and it's I mean, I get that it's not as easy. It's easier said than done, because I mean, you see a guy, the Aggies have got a starting cornerback who came in as a walk-on wide receiver from Texas. His name's Jamarcus Ingram, and he didn't have any offers. They got him as a walk-on, and now he's as a redshirt freshman, he's a starting cornerback and playing really well. And so sometimes, maybe that guy isn't in Utah. Maybe that guy's not in Vegas. Maybe they had to go to, maybe go into Texas and in California. You're going to get some of those guys, the Jalen Davises and the Jamarcus Ingrams and some of those guys that are kind of just overlooked. So I mean, I get that argument as well, but that. I mean, I guess now is a good time to give a plug for UStateAggies.com. Now part of the 24/7 Sports network as well. So Scout and 24/7 Sports merged. So we're full on. I don't know about you, Joe, but 24/7 has been really good. So
they've been great.
Yeah, they've been great to work with. They've been, they give you a lot more tools. So once we our staff on UStateAggies.com is great at updating the guys' interest, the Aggies' interest, kind of putting together the official visits and the guys' kind of the priorities. And so 24/7 has a lot of really cool tools to for fans to be able to see. Oh, well, this guy, he actually does have interest in Utah State, not just an offer. Or this guy, Utah State might not have as much interest in him as maybe he has interest in them, and vice versa. So it's pretty cool. There's a lot of resources you can use for that, and then obviously we'll get this podcast posted, some previews for UNLV, the previews for basketball. The basketball season. We've literally got like 5 minutes left on this podcast, so we don't even have a chance to get into basketball. But basketball season's coming up as well, so we'll probably talk to Joe again, later this year about basketball or something. We've got Kyle Haywood, who's going to be covering basketball for us on the website. So he's going to have videos, he's going to have interviews, articles and different things, so he's going to start putting on there. And so a lot of exciting things happening. So definitely go to UStateAggies.com, check it out, and keep checking back. Obviously, there's always inside information, breaking news, that kind of thing that you're going to find that only there and nowhere else. So definitely check it out. Joe, we're running out of time. I really appreciate you jumping on. It's good to chat with you. In 45 minutes, we probably lost a little bit of time with technical difficulties, but I appreciate you jumping on, and it was really good to chat with you. Any predictions or thoughts about the game in like a minute that you've got for us in conclusion?
In a minute, I'll say I think it's going to be a close game, to be honest with you. And
Yeah.
I'm going to say UNLV in a close one, but I just want to see Savon Scarver ball out. That's my guy. I love him to death. So I'm going to keep saying that just because that's my dude right there.
Yeah, he's the hometown boy. I mean, I think a lot of Aggie fans are like, you know what? Throw Love in there. Throw Trey Miller, who's from St. George, throw him in there at running back. Give him a chance. Give Savon Scarver, a chance at wide receiver, and see what you got. See what you've got for the future, and play some of these young guys, and it might turn out really well for you for the Aggies. So. The Aggies have been so up and down on the road. I almost, I want to agree with you there because, the Aggies have been so inconsistent on the road that even if, maybe they do end up having kind of a better game on offense, I don't know if their defense is gonna be enough to stop UNLV either. So it'll be interesting. I mean, UNLV is kind of one of those unpredictable teams as well as the Aggies have been a little bit unpredictable. So um, the offense definitely has not been clicking. So if they can get things rolling, then that it could be good for the Aggies. Aggies can definitely win this game. It's winnable, but the Aggies need to come out and play well. No flat starts like they've had a few in the last couple games. So that win against BYU means nothing, moving forward. If you lose to Wyoming and you lose to Colorado State and you lose to UNLV, I mean that's really going to be. Speaking of hot seats, that's really going to be, um, a situation where going into a game against Boise State, that's really going to be interesting to see what happens there. So. So yeah, we appreciate everyone listening. We're running out of time, but you know, check back with ustateaggies.com, and appreciate you jumping on, Joe. Have a great night. We'll talk to you soon.
You too, my man. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Okay.
All right.
All right. See ya.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. So just to finish up, appreciate Joe jumping on there. We I'll actually be at the game on Saturday, and like I said, I mean this is obviously Mount Wells isn't going to come out, and the players aren't going to come out and say, oh, this is a must-win game, and all that kind of stuff, because that makes it seem like if they lose, then he might as well turn in his resignation. So I get that he can't say that, but it's going to get ugly if the Aggies lose this game, and it's a game that they should win. It's a game that if they come out and play well, they win. They've got better talent. They've got better players. I mean, and really, I haven't talked a lot about this, but really, I mean, the Aggies have better talent than last year. Maybe they've obviously got issues in certain positions like quarterback, but they've got better talent than last year. They should be better than last year, and so far, it really hasn't been better than last year. So appreciate you listening. Hit us up on Aggie Up on Twitter, or check us out at ustateaggies.com 24/7 Sports Network. Thanks for listening. See ya.